We often ask, what does it take to be successful? And when we do, we usually look outward. We search for habits, strategies, life hacks. We copy morning routines of billionaires and study the lives of champions. We scroll through highlight reels trying to piece together a roadmap. But maybe we've been looking in the wrong place. Because the truth is, success doesn't begin with what you do. It begins with something far more powerful. It begins with why. There's a code to success. Not a formula, not a shortcut, but a deeper code, pattern beneath the surface. And the first line of that code is purpose. Real, honest, soul-level purpose. The kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that burns quietly, even when no one is watching. Most people never stop to ask themselves the hard questions, not because they're afraid of failure, but because they're afraid of silence. Because in silence, we hear the questions we've been avoiding. Why do I want this? Who am I doing this for? What does this mean to me? And more importantly, what will it mean if I get there? Purpose is the foundation of sustainable success. It's what anchors you when the applause dies down. It's what holds you steady when things don't go as planned. Because they won't. And when the external winds stop coming, you better have something stronger holding you together on the inside. I've met people who had all the trappings of success, titles, trophies, wealth, fame. But when you sit with them, when you really talk to them, you find a hollow space where meaning should be. They climbed the ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Because without purpose, success is a performance. And like all performances, it ends. The people who build lasting success, the ones who inspire, the ones we remember, are not the ones chasing applause. They're the ones chasing impact. They are led by something inside of them. Something that cannot be measured in numbers or rankings. Their fuel is not ego, it's service, it's meaning, it's clarity of mission. Think of someone who truly moved you, someone who left a mark on the world. Did they do it for recognition? Or did they do it because they had to? Because something inside them told them, this is why you're here. That's the kind of success that doesn't fade. That's the kind of success that outlives the person. Finding your why is not a weekend work. It's not a checklist item. It's a journey. One that requires honesty, self-awareness, and a willingness to get uncomfortable. Because you might discover that the things you've been chasing aren't really yours. That your dreams were inherited. That your goals were handed to you by someone else's definition of success. And that's okay. That's where the real work begins. Success is not about being perfect. It's about being aligned. And alignment starts when you strip away everything that's not true and stand in what is. Purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't demand attention, it asks for intention. And when you find it, everything changes. You stop comparing, you stop rushing. You start building something that feels real, something that feels like you. When you operate from your why, your actions become clearer. You make decisions not based on fear, but based on direction. You're no longer reactive, you're intentional, and that intention becomes magnetic. People can feel when you're being genuine. They want to follow leaders who believe in something more than themselves. They want to be part of something that matters. That's the real code to success. It's not a secret only the elite know. It's something we all have access to, but few are brave enough to uncover, because it takes courage to ask yourself, what if success wasn't about climbing, but about becoming? What if it wasn't about being the best, but about being true? We live in a world obsessed with speed. Get there faster, do more, scale. But speed without direction is just noise. If you don't know your why, every mile you run might be taking you further away from yourself. We don't need more people moving fast. We need more people moving right. So pause, take a breath, ask yourself, not what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to become? What legacy do I want to build? Not in headlines, but in hearts. What will remain long after the title fades, after the spotlight moves on? The answer to those questions is your foundation. It's your compass. It's your code. And when life gets hard, and it will, that code will hold you together. When things fall apart, it will remind you why you started. When the world tells you to quit, it will whisper, keep going. This matters. Success built on purpose doesn't crack under pressure. It bends it grows, but it doesn't break. Because it's not built on validation, it's built on conviction. Don't wait for the world to define success for you. Define it for yourself, and let that definition be rooted in something deeper than metrics. Let it be rooted in your story, your values, your heart. That's where the code begins. With a purpose so honest it scares you, so powerful it drives you, so real it changes the way you live. Success isn't found in the spotlight, it's found in the quiet moments where you choose to stay true to what matters most. And that is a kind of success no one can ever take from you. We often admire the people at the top, the ones we call great, the ones we say are born for this. But what we don't often see are the years of quiet discipline behind the scenes. The days that felt like drudgery, the mornings they didn't want to get up but did anyway. We see the moment they win, but not the moments they almost quit. That's because success isn't shaped by one grand effort. It's built through thousands of small, seemingly insignificant choices repeated with consistency. There is a dangerous myth that success is explosive, that it happens all at once. We love stories of overnight breakthroughs, viral fame, instant wins, but the truth is, those moments are rarely overnight. They're the result of compounded effort, years of showing up when it was inconvenient, pushing through boredom, frustration, rejection. The big moments are just the world finally noticing what someone has been doing all along. Intensity is seductive, it feels heroic, it makes a splash, but consistency, that's where real growth happens. Quiet. Steady, unapplauded. It's not flashy, it doesn't trend, but it transforms. Anyone can work hard for a day, but who keeps going when no one is watching? Who sticks to the mission when motivation fades? The code to success has a line that too many people overlook. It's not about how hard you hit the gas, it's about how long you stay on the road. Anyone can sprint, few can run a marathon, and success is always a marathon. It's not about bursts of brilliance, it's about showing up and doing the work, even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, even when results are nowhere in sight. This doesn't mean the journey has to be joyless. Quite the opposite. There's a deep satisfaction that comes from consistency. Not in the results themselves, but in who you become because of them. You begin to trust yourself. You learn that discipline is more powerful than mood. You stop needing external motivation. because the process becomes the reward. I've spoken to leaders who built billion-dollar companies, athletes who competed at the highest level, and artists whose work moved millions. And they all said the same thing: what separated them wasn't talent, it was consistency. It was waking up and choosing the work again and again. It was embracing the monotony most people avoid. That's where character is built in repetition, in the unglamorous moments when no one claps, when it's just you, your values, and the choice to honor them. Greatness doesn't come from doing extraordinary things once. It comes from doing ordinary things extraordinarily well every single day. And here's the beautiful part: consistency isn't about being perfect. It's not about never missing a step. It's about returning, recommitting, beginning again. Every day is an invitation to start over, to keep going, to keep building. If you fall off, you don't fail, you reset, you realign. And that's part of the code too: resilience within consistency. So many people wait for the perfect moment to begin. They wait to feel ready, confident, inspired. But success doesn't wait. Success favors those who act in uncertainty, who don't need a spark to move, who build systems instead of relying on moods. Moods change. Systems keep you grounded. Think about anyone you admire. The ones who seem unshakable, they're not unshakable because they never feel fear. They're unshakable because they've built a foundation through repeated effort. They've trained their minds to keep going when others would stop. And that training happens in the daily grind, not in the spotlight. We've created a culture obsessed with intensity, 60-day challenges, all or nothing mindsets, massive life overhauls. But what if we focused on what we could sustain instead? What if success wasn't about doing everything right for a short time, but doing the right things long enough to make them part of who we are? Habits shape identity, and when your actions align with the kind of person you want to be, you no longer chase success, it starts to chase you. You become the kind of person who creates results instead of waiting for them. And that shift from outcome casing to identity shaping is the key. Here's what that looks like: instead of saying, I want to be successful, say, I want to be the kind of person who shows up every day. Instead of chasing results, pursue routines. Instead of seeking hacks, embrace practice. That's where lasting change begins. Not in a single breakthrough, but in the compounding power of daily commitment. When you're consistent, your confidence changes too. You're no longer hoping for success, you're expecting it. Not because you're entitled to it, but because you've earned the right to trust yourself. You've proven that you can stay the course, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. But it gives you something far more valuable in momentum. And once you have momentum, you become unstoppable. You don't need to push as hard because the effort builds on itself. One step leads to the next. One win leads to another. And that's when the process starts working for you, not just because of you. It's easy to get discouraged when the results don't show up quickly. But if you're planting seeds, don't dig them up just because they haven't sprouted yet. Water them. Protect them. Keep showing up. Eventually they grow, not because you forced them to, but because you stayed the course long enough to let them. And that's what success truly is. It's not speed, it's endurance. It's not the spark, it's the staying power. It's not doing everything once, it's doing the right thing over and over until it compounds into something meaningful. The people who reach the summit aren't the ones who climb the fastest. They're the ones who refuse to stop climbing, one foot after the other, one choice at a time. And that's the second part of the code to success: is stay consistent, build the rhythm, trust the process. Keep your promises to yourself. That's how you earn your confidence. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you rise. We've all heard it: fail fast, fail often. But let's be honest, no one really wants to fail. No one wakes up hoping they'll fall flat on their face today, because failure doesn't feel good. It stings, it's uncomfortable. It challenges everything we think we know about ourselves. And yet, failure is one of the most powerful ingredients in the code to success. But not just failure for the sake of failure. I'm talking about the kind that teaches, the kind that humbles you, the kind that cracks your ego just enough for truth to enter. Because failure, if you're open to it as feedback, it's a signal that you dared to try. That you stepped into something uncertain, that you were brave enough to risk not knowing how things would turn out. That's the secret most people overlook. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. It's the tuition you pay to learn how to succeed. Every mistake, every missed opportunity, every painful moment, they're all data points. They're lessons dressed in discomfort. But here's where most people go wrong. They fail and then they stop. They internalize it. They say, maybe I'm not cut out for this, and they shrink. They retreat. They go back to playing small because small feels safer. But success doesn't live in safety. Success lives in the territory just beyond what's comfortable. It lives in the spaces where you risk something, knowing full well it might not work. The people who succeed at the highest level aren't the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who learned how to fail well. They didn't fall and stay down. They fell and got curious. They asked, what can I learn from this? How can I grow because of this? They used failure not as a reason to stop, but as a reason to evolve. It takes courage to fail forward, to face the sting of disappointment and keep moving, to hear criticism and not let it define you, to separate your mistakes from your identity. That's what real maturity looks like. That's what emotional resilience looks like. It's not pretending you don't care when you fail. It's choosing not to quit, even when you do. And what's more, it's about staying human in the process. Because success is never just about achievement. It's about the kind of person you become on the way there. And nothing will shape you more than how you handle the hard moments. Anyone can be gracious when they're winning. But who are you when things fall apart? That's where character is formed. We live in a culture that glorifies perfection. That rewards image over integrity. That makes people feel like they have to have it all figured out before they begin. But the truth is, no one has it all figured out. Every leader, every innovator, every change maker you admire, they've all stumbled, they've all doubted themselves. They've all had nights where they questioned everything. What set them apart wasn't their immunity to failure. It was their response to it. They didn't pretend to be perfect. They embraced their imperfections. They allowed vulnerability to live alongside ambition. And in doing so, they created space for growth. They gave themselves permission to keep going, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. There's something incredibly powerful about owning your mistakes, about looking someone in the eye and saying, yeah, I messed up, but here's what I learned. That kind of honesty builds trust. It builds connection. It shows that you're not hiding behind a mask, that you're leading with truth, not pride. And that's where real leadership begins, not in having all the answers, but in being willing to learn, being willing to be wrong, being willing to grow in public, even if it's messy. Because success is not a straight line. It's not a clean graph with upward momentum. It's a series of steps forward and steps back. It's detours and dead ends. It's getting lost and finding your way again. Failure forces clarity. It strips away the distractions. It reveals what matters. When you fail, you learn who's really in your corner. You learn what parts of your dream are worth fighting for. And you realize that the outcome isn't always the prize. It's the wisdom you gain along the way. We've been taught to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to do what feels good and stay away from what hurts. But some of the most valuable lessons in life come from the pain we'd rather avoid. Some of the deepest growth comes through disappointment, and some of the most profound breakthroughs happen after we've been broken. So maybe it's time we stop fearing failure and start using it. Start embracing it as part of the process. Not something to be ashamed of, but something to be grateful for. Because failure, when met with honesty and curiosity, becomes a forge. It shapes us. It strengthens us. It burns away what's weak and leaves behind something stronger, something more resilient. That's what it means to fail forward. Not to chase failure, but to honor it. To meet it with grace. To learn, adjust, and try again and again and again. That kind of persistence changes you. It makes you wiser, tougher, more compassionate. It gives you depth. It gives you empathy. It gives you perspective. So the next time you fall, don't rush to get back up just to look strong. Sit in it for a moment. Ask yourself what it's trying to teach you. Let it shape you. Let it refine your vision. And then rise not as the same person who fell, but as someone who's now better equipped to lead, to serve, and to succeed. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about never failing. It's about always becoming. And every failure, if you let it, brings you one step closer to who you were meant to be. Success isn't built on genius. It's not a product of hustle alone. It doesn't come down to strategy or timing or luck, at least not entirely. If you want to know the real foundation of lasting, meaningful success, look at the relationships. Look at the people who chose trust over tactics. Look at the ones who cared more about connection than competition. Because the truth is, success doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the context of trust. We've been taught to chase numbers, more clients, more followers, more sales, more metrics to validate our progress. But the real work, the work that lasts, isn't transactional, it's relational, it's built on trust. And trust, unlike tactics, takes time. It takes consistency, it takes sincerity. It's not a skill, it's a decision to lead with integrity and humanity, even when no one's keeping score. There's a difference between manipulation and inspiration. Manipulation gets you results quickly. You dangle a reward, apply pressure, push someone to act. But inspiration, that's different. Inspiration comes from belief. It's about saying, I see you, I value you. I believe in what we're doing together. And that kind of connection doesn't just motivate, it transforms. People don't follow you because of your title or your track record. They follow you because they trust you. They trust that your words match your actions. They trust that you care more about them than just what they can do for you. They trust that you won't disappear when things get hard. That's the kind of leadership that builds movements, not just businesses. Trust isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the little things. The honest feedback, the follow-through, the way you show up when no one's watching. It's built in eye contact, in listening without interrupting, in remembering someone's name when you didn't have to. People remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. And when you build trust, something incredible happens. Loyalty is born. Not the kind of loyalty that's bought, but the kind that's earned. The kind that says, I'm with you, not just because it's easy, but because I believe in where we're going. That kind of loyalty doesn't just help you grow, it carries you through the storms. Because when things fall apart, it's not your strategy that saves you, it's your relationships. The irony is, in trying to be more efficient, we've made ourselves less effective. We automate communication, we chase clicks, we optimize every detail. But success is not a machine, it's a heartbeat. And the heartbeat of any successful life team or organization is trust. People want to be part of something real. They don't want perfect, they want honest. They don't want to be managed, they want to be understood. They want to work with people who listen, who care, who value their contribution. When that's present, you don't have to convince people to do their best. They want to. There's a reason the most admired leaders are the ones who are human first. Because humanity is magnetic. Vulnerability, when rooted in strength, invites connection. When a leader says, I don't have all the answers, it doesn't weaken trust, it deepens it. It tells others that it's safe to speak up, to share, to grow. Trust also demands courage, because to build it, you have to go first, you have to open up. You have to be willing to be misunderstood, to risk being disappointed, to choose integrity over ease. It's far easier to control than to trust, but control limits potential. Trust unlocks it. This isn't just about leadership, it's about life. In every meaningful relationship, personal or professional, the currency is trust. And when that currency runs out, so does the relationship. But when that trust is cultivated, nurtured, protected, it becomes the foundation for everything else. Innovation, collaboration, resilience, growth. We've all been in environments where trust was absent, where people spoke carefully, avoided risks, hid mistakes, where fear lived beneath every decision. And we've also felt the opposite spaces where people were free to bring their whole selves, to contribute boldly, to learn without shame. One of those leads to burnout, the other leads to breakthrough. If we want to build anything that lasts, anything truly worth building, we must start with trust. Before profit, before prestige, before performance. Because all of those can come and go, but trust is what makes people stay. Trust is what fuels creativity, what drives innovation, what allows people to take the kind of risk that create real impact. And trust isn't just built externally, it starts inside. You can't give what you haven't cultivated. If you don't trust yourself, your intuition, your purpose, your values, it's hard to earn the trust of others. Self-trust is a seed. Everything else grows from there. So ask yourself, how do you lead? How do you show up? Do people feel seen in your presence? Do they feel safe to share ideas? Even imperfect ones. Do they believe you'll keep your word, not just when it's convenient, but when it costs you something? That's the real test. Not what you say in a pitch, but what you do when things get tough. Not how you lead when people are watching, but how you act when no one is. Because that's where trust is won or lost. The code to success isn't complicated, but it is demanding. It requires consistency, humility, honesty, empathy. It asks you to care more about people than optics, more about service than status. And it rewards you not just with achievement, but with alignment. Success that's built on trust doesn't just make you wealthy, it makes you whole. Because you didn't climb over people, you lifted them with you. You didn't pretend to be perfect, you led with your humanity. You didn't just winning. And in the end, isn't that what we really want? To be known, to be respected, to be trusted, not just for what we did, but for who we were while doing it. That kind of success can't be stolen. It can't be replicated. It's yours because you built it with integrity, with intention, with trust. It's easy to chase applause. It's tempting to measure your worth by how loud the crowd claps, how many followers you gain, how many likes you collect, how many awards sit on your shelf. We're taught from a very early age that success is external, that it's about recognition, status, trophies, something you can point to and say, look what I did. But there's a quieter, more honest kind of success, the kind that isn't about applause at all, the kind that's about legacy. Legacy doesn't show up in headlines. It shows up in conversations that happen when you're not in the room. It shows up in the way people remember how you made them feel. It lives in the example you set, in the lives you touched, in the principles you never compromised, even when it would have been easier to. It's not something you take with you. It's something you leave behind. We live in a world obsessed with speed, noise, and visibility. Everyone wants to go viral, to trend, to be noticed. But lasting success isn't about being seen. It's about being remembered. And not just remembered for what you built, but for who you were while building it. Were you kind? Were you honest? Did you lead with courage when fear was easier? Did you lift others as you climbed? These are the questions that define legacy. There's a difference between success that impresses and success that inspires. You can impress people from a distance. You can flash numbers, titles, logos. But to inspire someone, you have to get close. You have to be real. You have to let people see the struggle behind the story, the values behind the vision. Inspiration comes not from perfection, but from authenticity. Think about the people who changed your life. Chances are they didn't have millions of followers. They didn't walk on stages or run empires, but they showed up. They believed in you. They spoke truth when you needed it. They modeled something with their lives that gave you a new standard to rise to. That's impact. That's legacy. That's success even if it never trends. The challenge is that legacy requires patience. You can build popularity quickly. You can chase approval. You can do what everyone else is doing to stay visible. But legacy is slow. It's deliberate. It's built over time through repeated actions, often unseen by the world. And that's why so few people pursue it, because it doesn't come with immediate rewards, but the rewards it does bring are far deeper. They go beyond metrics. They reach into meaning. Legacy also demands sacrifice. You can't have it all. You can't chase every spotlight and still stay anchored to your purpose. There are moments you'll be misunderstood. There are moments you'll choose the long road when everyone else is looking for shortcuts. But in those moments, you're laying the bricks of something timeless. When you live for legacy, you begin to realize that success is not just about where you're going. It's about who you're becoming on the way. Are you becoming someone your future self will be proud of? Are you living in a way that makes others better, braver, more honest? Are you building something that others can carry forward long after you're gone? Success without legacy is noise. It's a flare that burns bright and disappears. But success with legacy, that's a torch. It lights the way for others. It outlasts you. It multiplies. The best part is that legacy doesn't require perfection. It only requires intention. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be faithful. Faithful to your values. Faithful to your mission. Faithful to the people who trusted you along the way. There's a misconception that legacy is something you build later in life, that it's something to think about when you're done building. But in reality, legacy is being built right now in your words, your choices, your reactions, your habits. Every day you're leaving behind a trail. The question is, what kind of trail is it? Does it lead people toward hope or away from it? Does it call people to rise or cause them to shrink? Success that only serves you ends with you. But success that serves others becomes a legacy. It keeps moving, it keeps giving, and it keeps speaking even in your absence. That's the kind of success worth fighting for. That's the kind worth staying up late for, worth standing alone for, worth slowing down for when speed is all the world seems to value. Legacy is also shaped by what you refuse to compromise on. When everyone else cuts corners, you choose excellence. When the easier way is available, but you stay true to your principles. These decisions cost something, but what you gain is worth far more than what you lose. You gain self-respect, you gain trust, you gain a life that speaks for itself. And maybe most importantly, legacy is not something you build alone. It's something you build in community, through relationships, through shared stories, through passing on what you've learned. When you help someone else find their path, you're extending your legacy into theirs. That's where meaning lies. Not in climbing to the top, but in reaching back and pulling someone else up. So ask yourself, not what do I want to be known for today, but what do I want to be remembered for when today is gone? What principles do I want to pass on? What kind of impact do I want to leave behind, not on a screen, but in someone's life? Applause will fade. The metrics will reset. The world will move on to the next big thing. But your legacy, that's different. That's what matters. That's what lasts. The code to success ends not with achievement, but with impact. Not with volume, but with value. Not with how loudly you were celebrated, but how deeply you were trusted. Because in the end, real success is measured not by how high you climbed, but by how many people were better because you were here.